Hello and welcome to Fly Nubian Queen TV. I'm Stephanie Rivers. Welcome to the conversation. If you are a frequent viewer of Fly Nubian Queen TV, then welcome back, Kings and Queens. If you're new to the network and you want to be notified when we post new videos, please text Queens to 31996 and you'll be notified of new posts. We have a lot of contributors out there, so we want to say thank you for viewing and welcome back to our regulars. The conversation today, I want to talk about deadly traffic stops. A lot of people, the protests over the past few weeks after viewing the modern day lynching of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer, a group of police officers. In the protests, a lot of people are now talking about the term defund the police. And so while that looks different to some people, essentially defunding the police, the police departments, whether it's a state level or a local level, they are funded through our tax dollars. So if the police departments or the law enforcement officers are guilty of being, aside from the good ones, if the others are guilty of being liars, cheaters, bullies, and killers, and then you have another portion of those police officers they make up the blue wall of silence and they condone the actions of the bullies, liars, and killers, then it would make sense for us whose tax dollars are going to fund them to redirect our money. Because essentially, when we do that, we take away the power that the police officers have and the law enforcement officers have if we direct that money. So when you hear the term defund the police, that doesn't necessarily mean zero out the budget that goes to the police. That essentially means redirecting that money so we can have better, more control over how the money is spent. Because what sense does it make for us to spend our tax dollars on people who lie on us, bully us, kill us, and then when we try to go get justice through the criminal courts, through the justice system, they turn around and emotionally kill us again by denying us justice, by letting these killers, liars, and bullies walk scot-free. So that's what that whole conversation is about. So I agree. We should look at a different way of policing in America. And so that's why the term defund the police, it might have set somebody off or set some people off, but probably those are the people who are not being bullied and brutalized and killed. So for those of us who have people who we know have been mistreated and mishandled and killed by the police, then of course that's what we want to do. And so if you care anything about a black man in America or a black person in America, black and brown people are being brutalized. And so that's another portion of what we're planning to do, that I think a conversation that needs to be had is redirecting the money that we use to support the police departments and the criminal justice system in America. So aside from that, though, until we get there, until we get to the part where we can redirect funds, we still have to engage. We still have to interact with police, or some of us on a daily basis. And so there's a few things that I learned about engaging the police, or more specifically, more correctly should say how they interact with us. Is I was reading a book called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell. Now, this is he's an award-winning author, and he wrote David and Goliath. He wrote that as well as some other books. But essentially, in Talking to Strangers, and it came out like end of last year. So essentially, in the book, he's talking about how people engage others that they're not familiar with, that we're more likely to believe strangers when they present themselves in a certain way, or we're more likely to not believe strangers if they present themselves in a certain way. So, for example, and this all goes to how the police engage us. See, I don't know, what I've learned is, and what you probably already have thought is, a lot of the police interaction with black and brown people happens through a traffic stop, just a routine traffic stop. And so in that traffic stop is how they end up engaging us, and then things go awry from there, or maybe nothing happens. But if we can keep from being in that situation, if we can avoid that situation as much as possible, then we could decrease the chances that we will be brutalized or bullied and lied on and killed by the police. So in here it's talking about how police, it's common knowledge, common practice that a police officer uses a common infraction to search for something rare like guns and drugs. And so it goes on to talk about how if a traffic stop, like a police officer in a traffic stop, the police officer, he looks at simple things like, if you are driving and you come to a stop sign and you don't stop all the way at the stop sign, you kind of like roll through the stop sign, that gives a police officer just cause for pulling you over. And let's say if it's you're changing lanes and you don't signal that you're going to change lanes, then that gives the officer just cause to pull you over. And they're not necessarily caring that you rolled through the stop sign, or they don't necessarily care that you changed from one lane to the next and didn't signal. But when you do that, that gives them just cause to stop you and look in your car and question you and look for other things, other more criminal things, or more something else that you might have done or might be guilty of that can lead to a bigger arrest. So, for example, if you get to a stop sign and you didn't stop all the way, you might, and a lot of people, we all do this. We drive in the same neighborhoods all the time, every day, going back and forth to work, back and forth to a restaurant, back and forth to the store. You know where the stop sign is. You know how long the light is. You know the traffic patterns. So you get into the habit of just being on autopilot and not really stopping all the way at that stop sign. So then what happens is you just get kind of lazy with your driving habits, and a police officer sees that, and he takes the opportunity to stop you because you didn't completely stop at the stop sign. So now he pulls you over, and now he's looking at how you act. How are you nervous? Is there something else that he might be able to pick up on? When he stops you, he's trying to see, do I smell marijuana on his breath or her breath? Do I see a beer bottle, an open beer bottle? Do I see if there is evidence of something else bigger going on. So that's their game. In fact, also in this book, Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell, it talks about how there's this book called, or the common practices called, Tactics for Criminal Patrol. So Tactics for Criminal Patrol, it came out in about 1995, and it talks about the different police departments across the country and how they are taught. So of course, when it comes to police officers, because they work in a criminal justice system, they have a tendency to believe the worst of the people that they engage. And of course, we know that through tests and through surveys, that police officers already think that black men and black women, black people in general, are criminals, and that they think the worst of us, and so they overreact most of the time when they engage us. They use the stop that the police officer made of Sandra Bland when her traffic stop, and how that went from bad to worse. And the author just talked about how the police officer could have de-escalated the situation, but instead the police officer kept taking it to the next level off of a speeding, or I think it was a lane change with Sandra Bland, that it went from a lane change stop to you're going to jail. And so if we can just remember when we are driving that this is the game that the police play. They want to stop you for the least little thing. So make sure you are making sure that you stop when you're supposed to. Even if you count to 3, count to 5, stay there a few seconds longer. And I know I'm guilty of when people are in front of me and it's a 4-way stop at a stop sign, and nobody is at the stop sign but you, the person in front of me, and I'm behind you, and I'm saying to myself, why you stopping so long? There's nobody coming. Go ahead and go. Because I just don't see the reason. I don't see why you have to stop that long. But maybe that person is already thinking, I don't, want to speed through this 4-way stop. I just want to stop a few extra seconds. And so I too have to become more aware that police are out there trying to catch you doing the least little thing. Even if they talked about in the book, and you can just look this up anywhere probably, because I used to date a guy who was a former sheriff's deputy, and when we would be in the car together, he would say, when I would change lanes, he would you need to signal, and he would always say things in the car that I thought, why is he trying to tell me what to do? Let me drive. You in the passenger seat, let me drive. But essentially, he knew that this is the game that they play. So if you have a crack in your windshield, that's just called stop, for them to stop you. Of course, if you have a brake light out, I remember recently, I had come home from a flight, and it was in the middle of the night, I was dropping somebody off, and one of my headlights was out, and the police were already positioned across the street at this restaurant that was closed. So I stopped and let the person out, and after we parted ways, they followed me. They waited till I pulled off and followed me and stopped me for my headlight that was out. So they knew right when I pulled up, because they were already sitting over there, that they were going to stop me. But it took them 10 to 15 minutes after I drove away for them to let me go around the corner, and then they stopped me and said, you got a headlight out. So I had to address that, because I didn't want that to continue to be an issue, because I don't want to be stopped by the police for any reason. And so if you have a crack in your windshield, headlight out, brake light out, if you are going too slowly when you should be going with the traffic, if you don't signal when you change lanes, all these things lead them to look at you, to smell in your car, to see what's going on in your car. And so that's why it's important to know these things, how to engage police, or how police want to engage you. So if you don't want them to be in your business and stopping you and potentially leading to something more serious and more deadly, just be aware of how they operate. There was an instance that we just learned about since the video of the modern day lynching of George Floyd came out 2.5, nearly 3 weeks ago. We just learned of an incident that happened over a year ago. This happened in March of 2019. It was a black man named Xavier Ambler. He was driving in Austin, Texas, near he was out in the county. Now, according to the reports, because you know they say what they want to say in these reports, but according to what they said was he was leaving like a poker game. He had going somewhere out in the county to see his friend. He was driving back, and so it was dark, it was at night, and because he was passing police, so they were passing each other on this road or street, because Xavier Ambler did not he didn't turn off his high beams. Because he did not turn off his high beams, police stopped him or tried to stop him. Now, according to the police report, he kept driving for like 10 or 15 more minutes, maybe. And if it was me and I'm out in the county and I don't know where I am and the police or headlights get behind me, I'm not stopping on no damn dark country road. I'm not doing it. So maybe he felt the same way, because this was 2019. He knows what can happen on a dark country road, okay, at night with the police. In the daylight, let alone at night. So anyway, they said he continued on for 10 or 15 more minutes, and by the time he did stop, 4 other police officers had got behind him. Now, because you didn't cut your high beams off, that doesn't make sense, first of all. But second of all, when they did stop him, now all this was being videotaped by I don't know if you've seen that show, Live PD. It's on A&E network, I think. I've seen it in passing. I watched an episode or something like that. But at any rate, it was being taped. It's kind of like the live version of Cops, except they go to different districts across the country. So anyway, they were getting some video footage. And it just so happened that Xavier Ambler was this all happened while they were videotaping it, and it turns out that after he didn't stop initially and went on to where he probably felt more comfortable being stopped by the police, 4 or 5 other police cars had gotten behind him. They rushed the car. They rush Xavier. He starts to tell them, I have congestive heart failure. They start tasing him. I think they said they tased him 4 times. Now, why are you tasing somebody? First of all, why are you stopping somebody over they didn't lower their high beams when you passed them? That's not even an infraction. That's like just courteous or not courteous, or maybe that's like, I just don't know that that's something that I should have been doing at that time. But at any rate, that's why they claimed they initially wanted to pull him over, and by the time it was over, they had tased him 4 times. They've got the police officer, one of the police officers is quoted as saying, I'll tase you again if you don't put your hands up. Give me your hands or I'm going to tase you again. Really? You stopped him over something so minor of an infraction. So that's another example of police officers are bullies. They take stuff to the next level for what? For no reason at all. Just because you got, a production crew watching you, now you got some guy, now you gonna tase him for no reason. Anyway, he ended up dying. Javier ended up dying, and this was over a year ago, March of 2019. Do you know it said that the coroner's office declared it a homicide, that he died because of his pre-existing conditions and that he was forcibly held down, and it caused him they killed him. But for some reason they're still investigating. Now, what the heck is there to still be investigating? That's that go-to line. Oh, we still investigating. So no video had been shown of this incident for a year. For a year, the family of Xavier Ambler has been trying to get closure on this and charges filed against the police officers. But there has been an investigation for a year. No video had been released. In fact, the producers of Live PD said that the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, the department that of the officers that pulled over Ambler at the time, they had never requested video from Live PD producers. So they're clearly stalling the investigation, or stalling giving up the video so that people can see what is going on. It took the video of George Floyd's modern day lynching to go viral for the investigation of Xavier Ambler's homicide case to go fast forward and start moving, because people are like, well, this is going on all over the country, which we know this. It's been going on all over the country, but these law enforcement agencies are continuing to block and to hijack justice and not give people information. They're holding back, withholding witness accounts and information, and keeping, and of course they want you to grow tired, they want you to grow weary, they want you to give up. But Black people and family, we cannot give up. We got to keep pushing through. But to keep this from happening, to keep your people from having to go through this on your behalf, to keep my people from going through this on my behalf, my goal is to never have to engage with the police, okay? Because who's to say whether you're going to get one of those good cops or whether you're going to get one of those bullies, liars, killer cops, and along with him is going to be the blue wall of silence who's going to cover it up on his or her behalf, because we know that exists. So don't let a deadly traffic stop happen to you. Make sure that you are obeying every minor traffic law to the best of your ability. And if you do have to, if you happen to be stopped by a police officer, just go to an area where you feel like it's well lit. And while you're on your way, go on and make some phone calls to your people and let them know what's up. And so they can be on their way to meet you at the 7-Eleven or meet you at the Exxon or wherever you going. Be making your phone calls and get ready to go live on their ass when they do stop you. And really, that's all I have for you tonight. Just wanted to stop through Kings and Queens and let you know how to avoid a deadly traffic stop. So keep shining the light in the darkness, and we'll talk to you next time.